Welcome everyone to this very scheduled board meeting in South PUD. Would you all please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming to the turnout. What's up today, guys? A lot going on, yes. Our number 2 on the agenda for today is to administer the oath of office.
So we're going to start with Giselle, and the term is for December 7th, 2018 through December 2nd, 2022. So I need you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Chris Cephalou.
I, Chris Cephalou.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
To the Constitution of the United States.
to the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
The duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jim Jones. Raise your right hand. I, James Jones,
I, James Jones,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Okay, congratulations. That is for you are seat number 2. And then we have one more for Nick Exline. Nick here. You want to come to the podium? Give you a copy of this. You can read along if you want to.
Thank you.
Hold on to try to remember how I'm saying it. Okay. So raise your right hand. I, Nick Exline,
I, Nick Exline,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, seat number 5.
Congratulations once again to all 3 of you. I know it's all of us have gone through that process. It's one that most of us don't enjoy, but appreciate you doing the work to get it done. All right, at this time, do we have any comments from the audience on non-agenda items? Okay, hearing none,
How about corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar? Okay, it's still pretty quiet, so let's have a motion.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Oh, you got this tuned up pretty good. That was fast.
Right?
What'd you do, Brent? And that passes 5-0. Okay. We have a presentation from the Municipal Information Systems Association of California.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and board members. My name is Tim Brandstrom, and I am the IT Director for DORADO Irrigation District. I also serve as a board member for Municipal Information Systems Association of California, or MISAC, which brings me here before you today. MISAC is a statewide organization comprised of more than 1,000 information technology professionals representing over 300 cities and special districts. The association was founded in 1980 to promote more effective and efficient municipal government through cooperation and mentorship amongst IT professionals. The Excellence in Information Technology Practices Program is a certification program MISAC administers to foster and recognize outstanding governance and operation practices. It requires the submission of a detailed questionnaire that examines over 100 essential areas of an agency's IT operation, including strategic planning and budgeting, operations, customer satisfaction, project management, disaster recovery, preparation, policies and procedures, plus proof that the practices are actually being performed. It can be a great deal of effort, however, the process provides a submitter with a complete audit of their IT operation. Submissions are evaluated and scored by a panel of current IT leaders, and evaluation criteria are updated every year to incorporate new standards and best practices, so applicants are consistently held to the highest of standards. To earn an award for information technology practices, the agency must meet current local government standard best practices across all operational areas. Constructive feedback is provided for any aspect that needs improvement, and the submitter is encouraged to try again next year. The Achievement Award signifies that all essential areas of the agency's operation meet those current local government standard best practices, while the more challenging Excellence Award signifies the agency's practices consistently exceed local government standards. On behalf of MISAC, it's my distinct pleasure to present the South Tahoe Public Utility District with their 5th consecutive MISAC Award for Excellence in Information Technology.
Congratulations. Actually, maybe you say something in the microphone. Well, I'm glad you said that because I wasn't going to let him get it.
Well, first thing I'm going to say is it's not just me, it's our IT department. It's a true team effort because 120 detailed questions takes quite a bit of time.
So that's what I mean. First, I wanted to congratulate you and your staff because it's just further evidence of the expertise level we have within your department. But yeah, I was wondering if you could just describe a little of the effort that it goes into to actually receive this award.
Yeah, well, it starts early on. I think we start maybe 4 or 5 months early, and then I actually take it more of a succession planning approach. So each year we rotate the 25 to 30 questions around the department. So nobody's ever doing the same questions year after year. We're updating the questions, new questions each year. So, yeah. Any questions?
Well, good job, Chris, and your whole department. Appreciate all of you.
I've known him since he was a little kid. And I was always impressed with his character, and didn't know he had all that smarts in there too. So it's nice to see you get that award.
Okay, next up we have the Tahoe and Upper Truckee pump stations.
And I'll be taking this one. Steve Caswell is out sick today with the flu that's been going around town. With this item, as you will recall, Carollo Engineers has conducted a condition assessment of our Big 5 pump stations. And these are 2 stations that have risen to the top with respect to needs. And particularly the Tahoe Keys pump station, it really has, and I'll read off a couple of items here, was identified as having insufficient pumping capacity, a lack of redundancy, a lack of flow metering, insufficient bypass capacity, electrical gear is also at the end of its useful life, and also the structure itself doesn't meet current seismic standards. And at the Upper Truckee pump station, it also has some pump safety and capacity issues, a lack of flow metering, insufficient bypass, and a lack of force main redundancy, and the electrical gear is again at the end of its useful life. And so both of these stations have come to the top of the list with respect to pump stations that are in need of repair and rehabilitation. We received a proposal from Carollo to do the design services on these 2 pump stations, and Steve Caswell worked with them quite closely to try and identify areas where we could reduce and modify the scope. One area where we did that is not included in this scope and these values that you're seeing here is regarding the construction services that consultants provide us. So this really is a design and permitting scope that is budgeted here, or is we're requesting funding for today. We will have to come back to you in the future as we refine the project to look at those construction services costs. And that's actually something I would like to get the board input on. Would you like to see going forward as we develop projects? Would you prefer to see the construction services cost estimate included for approval when we come to you with these types of projects, or would you rather us wait and refine them and bring that back to you at a later date? Is there any preference from the board at this point?
I lean towards the later one, later and more accurate, as opposed to earlier preliminary, but I'll ask the board to
I really don't, doesn't matter either way. And we've been discussing this, so we've known about this and it's coming in.
You guys discuss this in ops all the time. If there's anything weird, I'm sure you bring it to our attention.
Okay. We'll continue forward then with this type of proposal for future contracts as well. And then with that, unless there are further questions, district staff is requesting that the board, 1, authorize task order number 14 to Carollo Engineers in the amount of $267,700 for design services for the Tahoe Keys pump station replacement, and 2, authorize task order number 15 to Carollo Engineers in the amount of $221,800 for design services for the Upper Truckee pump station rehabilitation project.
So moved. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We really been having a discussion on this. Anybody have anything to add to this? I mean, I realize we've been talking about this Big 5 team for a long time, and we keep up with what goes on in the ops committee. But just let us know in case anybody wants to have any questions or discussion at this point. Anyone 5-0? Thank you. Okay, Richard, you're going to talk about the conservation manager position that we discussed in our last meeting, right?
That's correct. The proposal and the request of board action is to authorize staff to begin the recruitment process to fill the position of public affairs / conservation manager. We have talked about this in the finance committee as well as the last board meeting. And it's really being driven by our perception that the public outreach efforts are going to really be ramping up over the next 6 or so months with the Prop 218 process, as well as an ongoing, for the foreseeable future, an outreach effort on the PCE issue down at the Y, where we're trying to gather as much public support as we can in order to get the funding at the state. They'll be continuing outreach efforts on the water conservation program, moving to the future with the state developing additional programs on top of the water, at this point, the voluntary water conservation efforts that we're supposed to be doing. And so our program will be continuing to move forward with the odd-even watering and anything else the state comes up with, depending upon weather cycles. So what the proposal is in this, what we have envisioned is we're changing the position that Dennis Conking had 5.5 years ago, in that we're taking some of the public outreach effort that he was involved in and spreading that out among the general manager, the assistant general manager, and the chief financial officer in their efforts, and that's what we've been doing over the last 5 years, to provide enough time for this position to continue to run and manage the water conservation program with the use of seasonal staff to actually do the field work and the field inspections and the verifications. And so that would provide enough effort, enough space in the position to then add public outreach effort, which, as I think you're probably aware of, Shelley's already been doing some of that for our assistants. So that's the proposal, and we have analyzed it, as you see in the write-up, by shifting the full-time position from a water conservation position to a combined water conservation public outreach position. Obviously, the salary would increase and salary benefits to the tune of about $48,000 a year, because we will not be increasing the number of full-time permanent people on the staff. That the temporary positions, the seasonal positions in the water conservation program are the seasonal positions we've had for a number of years, carrying those duties out. So, unless you have any questions, that's what's we're asking for. That's our add to this new and revised position.
Anything? I think we did discuss this briefly last time, and I remarked at the time that I appreciate the Finance Committee looking into that, and I'm going to go with their recommendations. And also realize that the general manager did fall down a little bit on that, and that's why the new general manager is probably the right thing.
I make a motion that we authorize staff to begin the recruitment process to fill the position of Public Affairs Conservation Manager.
Just pick one now. Okay, once again, if I never pass. All right, resolution 3098-18.
He was so surprised. You moved me to the end of the place so you could just get flack me and whack me.
The resolution of the Board of Directors of the South Tahoe Public Utility District honoring Dwayne Wallace for 4 years of service. Whereas Dwayne Wallace assumed office in 2014 and has served a combined total of 20 years in the South Tahoe Public Utility District Board of Directors. And whereas during his recent tenure, Director Wallace served on the Finance Committee for 4 years, guiding the preparation of the district's budget during each one of his years on the board. Whereas Director Wallace dedicated many hours to understand the district's ordinances, issues facing the district, as well as issues facing the community that involve the district, thoughtfully prepared for his role as board member. Whereas Director Wallace demonstrated superior leadership skills in contributing to many board discussions regarding district business and how the district could have a positive influence on the community financially as well as environmentally. Whereas Director Wallace led by example by listening to the public, ask questions, and could be counted upon to attend both required meetings and community meetings on issues such as workforce housing. Whereas Director Wallace helped strike a balance between rate increases to fund district CIP projects and affordability of district services for its customers. Whereas Director Wallace served as the district representative of the El Dorado County Water Agency. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South Tahoe Public Utility District does hereby express deep appreciation to Director Wallace for his many hours of public service to the people of South Lake Tahoe, California. We, the undersigned, do hereby certify that the above and foregoing resolution, number 3098-18, was duly adopted and passed by the Board of Directors of the South Tahoe Public Utility District at a regularly scheduled meeting held on the 6th day of December 2018 by the following vote.
Tamara, your timing is impeccable. We just had a big, long appreciation.
I have to appreciate it more.
And we'll give you a copy, so you...
Thank you.
You get more than 5 whereas, you know.
So thank you much for your
Yeah, you're pretty cheered. I want to tell you that there's 2 things in my life, long life so far, that I've enjoyed as much as being a part of this organization. It's rare that you're able to see something start at one place move to another, and I attribute it to the general managers we've had and the board members. It's not been an I thing, it's been a team thing. That doesn't mean that a vote has to always be perfect. It doesn't have to be 5-0 because there's 5 opinions and not just one. I've appreciated the lively discussions we've had and the solutions we've arrived at. And I have a personal relationship with everyone in here, from anywhere from Linda, knowing her for probably 30 years, and Shannon dragging me all over Washington, to some people like Shelley that have come and gone, and John in his new role, and so many of the day-to-day people that are really the workers of this organization, to people who are not here today because they've retired. I just feel so blessed as a human being to have been around so many smart people and people who are willing to look at ideas from all different angles and come up with the right solutions. I urge you to keep in mind what I said, and that's that it is a teamwork thing, to appreciate each other's individual positions, and most of all, to remember that we are a public utility district and we work for the public. And sometimes it's easy to forget that we're not out here alone. And I appreciate that we work with the city well, and we work with so many other agencies well. And our reputation, despite our initials, is very good. So I want to say, well, thank you. I appreciate you all more than you know, and I will be back.
Okay, I will move that we approve resolution number 3098-18 in appreciation of Director Wallace.
Second that.
With 7 whereas.
Dwayne, I think you were supposed to disqualify yourself here, bias.
All right, so I don't think that's my opinion, but...
What are you gonna do to him?
right. Payment of claims.
I move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,655,776.48.
Okay, nothing again, please, Paul. Okay, next up, prior to next month's meeting, we will be having, hopefully, if the city sticks to what they say they're gonna, by the way, Melanie, is that here? Or
It's here.
It's here?
9:30.
We will need to replace Dwayne as the second member on the ad hoc committee for the city. I'm on that committee also. I've discussed that with a couple of board members here. I think what I would like to do, I would like to have Chris Seflu fill that spot. Yeah, I don't know if any of the other board members has any input on that, but I think Chris will do a good job on that, and I think he's agreeable to it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to do, and I think that's all we need to do on that. We don't need a motion or anything. So let's move on.
Like, since we have an ad hoc committee on LPA, as you know, I think we talked about it, I had sent a letter over there requesting kind of discussions on water service in the old redevelopment area, I guess is what it was called, the Great Bowl Ground. But there are development plans unfolding, and so I sent a letter over there in front of time for them to consider at the November 16th, 14th. And I got a letter back from AD part of the president that said they didn't have time to consider it, so that it'll be on the agenda at their next meeting, which he described as late January. So you just need to keep apprised of what their discussions are. Probably schedule a committee meeting after we get their response back from them.
Okay, actually, I do have a slight update on another standing committee. The successor agency to the redevelopment, I always get the wording wrong. But anyway, the one with the city overseeing all of our debt, I thought was dead. They took in the state law changed, it handed over to the county, so it was, as far as I was concerned, was dissolved until this morning. I got a phone call from the county, El Dorado County, asking my availability for an oversight board meeting. I asked the person in charge, making the call, well, are you just readopting the old committee, or are you putting new in? They had no idea. They were just told to schedule a meeting. So I will be looking into it, the county, to find out if that committee still exists, and if it does, who's on it.
Well, that's interesting, because I was under the impression that the new members were just the county boards of supervisors.
Right, exactly. And so I asked that person to kind of check with the person who told them to make the call to find out what's going on. And I said, well, have you called Sue Novacell yet? Because she's actually on the board of directors of the county, and she's on that committee. And they said, oh, no, I can get a hold of her. So I will find out if that committee still exists. But that was fun. Board member reports. Jim, you were at Aqua, right?
Yeah, last week I was at Aqua along with Shannon and Shelley, and Eagle was there for a couple of days also. The conference was entitled Investing Today for Water Tomorrow. And they had about 1,850 people that attended it, all the important water people in California. A lot of federal, a lot of state, a lot of consultants, and a lot of water company people. The first day actually included was the JPIA for insurance, and then the rest of the week there were about 80 sessions, different forums and discussions, and some technical sessions and so forth. The JPIA, Shannon attended, he was interested in some of the new things that we're getting involved with. there are about 450 members of the JPIA, so that's a pretty good part of the ARCLA membership. We attended the executive committee and then the board of directors committee. Most of the discussion was on the captive insurance company that they're moving ahead on, and which will be registered in the state of Utah, because they have much, well, not much, but they have less regulatory requirements than the state of California has, and is strict on some of the stuff. And anyway, they've passed a resolution to put this into place over the next year. So a year from now, we expect to start using this, and hopefully we'll pay a lot more on their reserves than we can get in the state of California. There are 4 different insurance policies or areas that they're involved with. There's liability, property, and workers' comp and employee benefits, and all of them are essentially no increase for this next year. And it was kind of interesting in that they had about a 10% reduction in the pharmaceuticals. With everything else going up, the pharmaceuticals, they said it's very little, there's a lack of transparency, one of them said. That there's a lot of middlemen in there, and they're taking their cuts, and by the time they got through that, they were able to reduce the pharmaceutical costs this last year by over 10%. They've got about 5 different medical, under the benefits, employee benefits, they've got 5 different areas. One is medical, there's dental, there's vision, there's life insurance, and then there's employee assistance. And the medical and dental are a little over 200 of the members who are involved in that. So much for the JPIA. The next couple of things, well, the next day Tuesday was the different committees that Evo and Shannon and I are on. The Groundwater Committee met, the Water Management Committee, and also the Water Quality. I went to all 3 of those. There was a lot of talk about the California Water Plan, where we're going. There's also talk about the headworks and what's happening there. The big thing is that the fire borrowing, where the money for fighting these big fires was coming out of the local ranger districts, will now be coming from a different account. So they'll be able to use a lot of that money that was going to fires to start cleaning up the forest, bedding, and all of the things that we're talking about for a healthier forest, and the resultant increase in water runoff in those areas. In the water quality area, there's several different things that are important. One is the trihalomethanes. They're moving ahead on that. Microplastics, that seems to be one of the hot topics now. These plastics that are breaking down into fine filaments that they know they're a problem, they just don't know how big a problem it is, and they don't know how to measure for it. So there's a lot of work in that area. And also there are several other plans that we're talking about, the groundwater plan and the salt management plans for different areas. The next 2 days, Wednesdays and Thursdays, are the general sessions, and there's a lot of different discussions. Like I said, there are about 80 different sections you could go through. Some of them there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. It's some of them I'd like to be able to go to all of them at times, and it's difficult. But Shannon and I are kind of split it up, and then it's good to have him there, and we can talk about what the district's doing. When we hear about the different things that's coming down from the state. There's also a section on the infrastructure financing and workforce, the future workforce that I attended, which was kind of interesting because they're developing in the Bay Area, led by East Bay Mud, and there are about 30 other water agencies that are working on developing apprenticeship programs for for skilled occupations, and they're using the unions and the community college also down there to put together a program to train people for those apprenticeships. And the ones that seem to be the most popular ones, or the most important ones, are machinists, plant maintenance people, instrument technicians, and plant operators. So it's a program that seems to be working out, and it's something that we ought to look at. I'm not sure if we got all of the technical people we need, but that's something Nancy can work on, or I'll talk to her about that.
Can I jump in there real quick on that? And just to talk about one of the proposals that is coming from our operations group is to do basically an internship program with our wastewater treatment plant operators that would be essentially a year-long program as a temporary employee, because it takes 2,000 hours for an operator to get their Operator 1 certificate. So they would come in, do 2,000 hours of training, and then at the end of that time period, they would be gone, and we would start that cycle again. But it provides training for local people to become operators, and they can stay with us if we have openings, or they can go someplace else in the future.
Well, this is good. This is happening around the country because of just the lack of technical people that can move into jobs like this, especially machinists and electricians and instrument technicians. There's a real shortage of them in the Bay Area. There was the additional conversations or sessions on water conservation, energy, zero carbon goals, municipal financing, communications, groundwater, consolidation of water districts, which is something that we have an interest in, and a new bill on water shutoffs, which is going to mandate some things that may not work out too well. We're looking at that too. Kim's, I think, looking into that. It's not here today. Oh, he's afraid I was looking in the back.
Close to the door.
And one of the guest speakers was Brenda Berman, who's the new commissioner for the Bureau of Reclamation, and she had some interesting things to talk about. One thing that I didn't know that I knew they were working on it, but they're looking at raising Shasta Lake, Shasta Dam. The lake would be raised to 18.5 feet, which adds about 15% capacity to that dam. So that's going to be a big thing for water in the Central Valley. In addition to that, there was the exhibit hall. There are about 80 exhibitors there, and that's very interesting to be able to walk through and see what they've got. Their different consultants and purveyors of equipment, all sorts of things, which is good. There's a new executive director down there, and Tim Quinn, who's been there for about 13 years, I think, is leaving. And Dave Egerton, who some of you know, is the new executive director of which is an interesting move on their part, because he's a Northern California person after having somebody from Southern California down there. And he's also familiar with the foothills of the county, Mountain County, so that would be interesting. After the sessions were over, I got on a bus and gave us a tour of it took us up to Carlsbad to the seawater desalinization plant, which was quite interesting, so I'm going to see that. The next meeting's in May in Monterey, and I'd encourage any board members to go. There's still quite a few different items, and it's a good education. And I think Shelley, I don't know if you've got anything to add to this.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple things very briefly. We have seen a lot of movement in recent years on a lot of issues. I think of them as threats from Sacramento. The good news is we didn't hear a lot of new threats from Sacramento. However, old threats are coming back. The water tax, there is some expectation that threat will be coming back again this year. However, Aqua's moving pretty aggressively to try and get their proposal out first, and their proposed solution for funding disadvantaged communities, water supply for disadvantaged communities. They're planning to put that out there early and aggressively in order to try and derail a threat of a water tax. So that I expect that we'll be hearing more about that again. In the future, we are also working on water conservation. The laws have passed, and so now we are working on the regulation, the implementation of that. We have been contacted by the Department of Water Resources to be part of the pilot study, the next round of pilot studies to look at outdoor use, water conservation, and so I think that will be very helpful for us to be at the forefront of that and how that is implemented in mountain communities, as well as there is a variance for water conservation for seasonal population variance and changes, and so we expect to be part of that discussion as well. And then the water loss program, the water loss regulation or legislation that has passed previously, they continue to develop regulation and study to implement minimum water loss requirements for agencies. That will be coming in the future. That has a date on it about 2020 when those restrictions would need to come out. However, they're looking to roll that into the water conservation regulations, and those don't go into effect until 2023. So all of that will be happening as a kind of slow motion move with more information to come on those issues. We've got a couple of other pieces of information I'll talk about when I do my legislative update, not specific to the conference.
One thing I didn't hear much about was the voting down of Proposition 3. I don't know if you were in session.
They're still trying to figure out what happened, because it's the first time in decades that a water bond failed in California, much to the surprise of the water industry as well as the environmental industry, and they're trying to figure that out. There's a lot of speculation at this point. I don't know that I've heard any really sound or good analysis that says this is what we think happened. Some of the speculation I've heard is they passed a water bond earlier in the year, a parks bond that had a bunch of water stuff in it, and therefore that may have contributed to it, but it's not entirely clear.
But they haven't come up with any idea. I don't even know what happened. So
They're still, yeah.
But I didn't hear.
There wasn't a lot of discussion.
About that.
There was at the aqua board meetings previously. There was a fair bit of discussion about it, but again, a lot of speculation with no real conclusions from anybody, I think, that has a high level of expertise.
Thanks for the opportunity to attend. It was my first aqua meeting. I heard that it was in San Diego, and sunny and beautiful out. Jim hit on the end of fire spending, which I think is a huge achievement for aqua, something aqua's been fighting, so that when fires happen, they're not being pulled out of U.S. Forest Service's operational budgets. Jim talked a little bit about the urban water use efficiency laws that were passed, SB 606 and AB 1668. But I sat in on a few workshops on that, and I just wanted to bring back the really short bullet list of what that means, because it came up at our board candidate forum the other day, and I just want to clarify. So the law has been passed which sets an indoor water use per person. It will be setting an outdoor water use. It accounts for water loss and some variances, and all of that is added up together into a big formula. And so we, the district, will get a water budget of how much water we're able to supply to our customers. It's for the indoor use, it's 55 gallons per person per day. There's been press saying you can't take a shower and wash your clothes on the same day. It's not actually by person or by household. It'll be aggregated. For the outdoor water use, they're doing a pretty intense, the state's doing a pretty intense process where they're going to be flying drones over the entire state, looking at determining irrigable area per lot, and then multiplying that irrigable area by standard to tell you how much water you can spend. So Shannon referenced that we're a pilot. We worked hard for that. You fly over Tahoe, all you see is pine trees and fir trees. So just because we want to make sure that our community is adequately represented.
And then the water losses based on SB 555, and then the variances, what Shannon mentioned, seasonal populations, as well as our ski resorts some of our ski resorts use potable water for snowmaking. That's not a very common CII use of water. We want to make sure that's accounted for. So anyway, we're going to have to start submitting annual reports in 2023, but the law has passed, it's coming, and we're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops in the future to comply with it. And the only, let's see, Jim mentioned a little bit the SB 998, that's the water shutoff law that passed. And I sat in a very depressing meeting about that. Essentially, every water agency is going to have to develop a discontinuation policy, which means you have to outline when and why you will be turning off someone's water for lack of payment. And you have to translate it into 5 languages, whether or not those languages are spoken in your community or not. It puts restrictions on continuing services for delinquent payments. It limits reconnection fees for low-income customers. And there's annual reporting on the number of disconnection of services due to inability to pay. Again, it's not a great law. The water agencies weren't involved. Aqua fought it. It passed anyway. And so thank goodness Tim's here. He's there's gonna be.
He's got a lot of spare time to do
Thank goodness, he really does. So that is a pain that we don't do a lot of discontinuations for non-payment. But we like being able to threaten it to try to get people to pay, and we have it goes to property taxes for payment. I don't think it'll affect us that much. It's just going to be a ton of work without extra funds from the state. And then finally, this was something interesting to me. The Department of Water Resources is always talking about consolidation, and my hackles get raised instantly saying, well, Lucas is trying and Tahoe Keys is trying. I don't know if consolidation is the right step for South Tahoe. And I learned at Aqua that there are 7,500 water systems in California. 3,000 of these are community systems, and half of those community systems have less than 500 connections. And of those small shops, that's where 90% of the water violations come from. So when the state's talking about consolidation, they're talking about less than 500 connection water groups. I don't even know what the correct companies, thank you, water companies. So that was new to me. That helped put things into perspective when the state's really pushing consolidation for meeting state mandates on providing adequate drinking water for our whole state. I think that's it. So thank you again for letting me go.
Thank you. Anybody else have a preliminary report? Joanne?
Yeah, I do, since it's my last one. What really bothers me, especially that you guys hit on, is the seasonal thing. We have people coming from countries all over the world who have had no introduction to water savings in our country or in our state. So we'll have sometimes 5 times our population not following the rules that we'll be responsible for. That's tough stuff.
So on that issue, what we're trying to do is to get those, the commercial, so the hotels and whatnot, commercial customers are already separated from that grouping as far as indoor water use is concerned. What we're also trying to do is identify the residential customers, the folks who don't live here, the houses that are not occupied full-time by residents, and get them excluded and considered to be commercial, so that we can break all that out and just look at the consumption, indoor consumption of our community members, the tax base or the population base that we actually have to account for and get an allocation for. And that's how we're moving forward with that at this point. We'll see, and that's why we want to be at the table to write these variances. We were at the table and got that variance included for seasonal population variation. It's because we've been at the table.
It gives me the willies to have the state flying over. I think we need to have Chris arm his drones. What I wanted to talk about, since last deal that we talked about getting the city representative, it's come to my attention, obviously, that some things that have gone on there, and I've actually got a letter in the Mountain News, I believe, about it. But the main thing is, as the city council members were leaving, they basically scorched the earth on the way out. You know, I'm proud that as I leave the district, I'm hoping that people will consider that I left it in a little better shape than when I got here. But they had about, I think, $21 million in unallocated reserve, or 11 million was the actual number, the other 10 was allocated. And they spent all but about $2.5 million over the last few months, and most of it was spent at their last meeting, the last item under new business. And it wasn't items that weren't on the list, just like we have our big list, you know, with all those red lines on. They picked some items that, you know, everybody might say, yeah, that's something we need to do, but they wiped out the funding. All this at the same time that we have a new city manager, city attorney, city clerk, 3 new council members, and people just trying to, you know, see if their key fits the door around there. So I think our district might be able to help the city in a lot of ways when it comes to processes and ideas for financing and for things like that. I think that as citizens, a great deal of our district customers live inside the city, and it's really going to be a problem, especially when it comes to putting in money for fire suppression, doing any joint projects, fixing roads. The money, the last 2 years worth of money for roads, it's not in the budget. And then last year, they punished everybody for voting yes in a majority, but not a super majority, so they punished them for that by not actually doing any road repair, and they didn't do any this year. They took it out. So I'm generally getting this story right, but it's just one thing after another, and they didn't negotiate with all the unions and kicked that, to use their phrase, can down the road. So they've got budget negotiations, no money for roads. They've got Measure T that passed, which could affect their budget by between $2 and $3 million, possibly, and the CalPERS that's going to start ramping up anywhere from $5 million to $9 million a year with no money to pay it. So the city is going to have to look at alternative measures to doing business just to be able to stay in business. And I'm like I said, I'm happy to be a part of an organization that is prepared for the future, has saved money, and has done things properly. And as a citizen, I'm certainly not happy to see the way it's going on. So when you guys meet with them, that's what your new city manager is going to be dealing with, and the assistance that you can do to help the city, because it will also help us, would be good. Anything from cooperating on stormwater drains to especially fire suppression, all those things, road repair, all those things, they're going to need some advice on. And just as you know, Richard, you're the only one of your kind in this town. The city manager is the only one of their kind in their town, and they're a little lonely at times, especially when they move from another town. So that's all I just wanted to tell you. That's coming up for them. Fucking games and stuff on top of.
Well, Chris and I'll try to be on top of that, like, do our best.
Yeah.
In your absence. Under, we're still under boardman reports, the Aqua deal reminded me, cost is coming up in the end of January. I had Melanie, without knowing how many board members wanted to do this, reserve 3 hotel rooms because the hotel rooms go first. Jim, did you have plans to go to Costa again this year?
Not if you're going to go, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go. Nick, if you want to go, it might be a good way to get your feet wet. It's down in Palm Springs, bring your golf clubs. You know, it's nice.
If I bring my golf clubs home, it's like,
So anyway, Millie, do you know when the registration deadline is for that meeting? If we can always cancel the motel rooms, but the meeting, as long as you let her know prior to the meeting time, you think about it. You can go online, look at their agenda, see if anything there interests you. I do know that occasionally they have meetings on board members and what their role should be and geared toward newer board members. So if they have anything like that, it might be of interest to you. I don't know.
I don't have the deadline, but the conference is January 23rd.
It's into January, and I think the deadline is sometime this month. So.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, 23rd through the 25th in Indian Wells. And Jeff Lee is not planning to go. I'm planning to go at his place this year for the January conference, so I'll be down there with you. And I've got some handouts on it, Nick, I'll give to you before when we leave.
Okay, any other board member reports? All right, let's move on to one of my favorites, I think. Street lighting.
Well, just before we jump there, the other kind of word.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Jim went, I had
Oh, okay.
one, so he was very helpful and went, and as did Richard. And I don't think, is there a meeting in December?
We'll find out by tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
A lot of times they cancel their December meeting. If they can put off making decisions until January on stuff, then a lot of times they'll try not to have a meeting in December. So we'll find out tomorrow.
Do you have anything you want to add on that, Jim?
No, I reported last meeting, this had been like the day before, or last board meeting. So there's going to be major changes in that board too. Because the ID director was representing the ID, got voted off, and one of the West Slope supervisors got voted off, and he's on the board, so there's, several new faces up for that board too.
Okay, so now we're on your future.
Last week, some of us had a meeting with several of the representatives of Liberty. Just one of their managers was out in the East Coast visiting, and so the short of it is that they are still hoping that they can get the rate reduction through the CPUC, so that their 130% increase on the cost of the streetlights could be rolled back for the most part. And then they're still hoping that they can move forward with the LED lights, and then I guess the city's indicated positively that they would probably be taking that over. Based upon the fact that I just today become aware of Liberty's got a 22% rate increase in front of in front of the CPUC for the next 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised if the process of the CPC didn't move as fast as Liberty was looking, but obviously we'll find out. They'll let us know if they can meet the March 31st deadline for the availability of transfer. That's when he said that was the deadline he gave, and it would be after not going to bill anymore. So. And they even up there, they were arguing, they sort of, at least they said in the meeting, they understand why we don't want to be involved. It's just sort of a useless thing. They don't provide the service, and this started before the city was even in existence, and there was nobody else around to bill individual clients. And then just want to let you know that the public outreach for the whole Prop 218 process is begun. This is when we began 5 years ago. The mailer is over, it's basically being mailed out tomorrow, inviting people to a customers to a December 19th meeting at 6 o'clock here, board meeting. And it's a one-page thing with some nice pictures on it. Our staff did a good job putting it together, Shelley and John. The front of it is basically kind of a report card of a lot of the major things we've done with the money, over the last 5 years. In the back is just basically kind of talking about our investigation of our assets and, talking about, leading off with the fire protection. And it still requires a lot of investment in order to bring the entire community up to firefighting.
flow requirements. So you should be seeing that in the mail, and that's we'll start, kick off the process for in December. And some of the, if you remember some of these early meetings, we did have a lot of interest. We had the room was almost full of people wanting to find out about what we had planned and what was in the process and the needs, and trying to identify the needs. We had a nice picture of the sinkhole out there on Southeast Boulevard, saying, if you overshoot your estimate of your asset life, it kind of gets you in trouble. So, anyway.
Actually, I was gonna, so you remember a pretty good turnout for that December one, because I was thinking that with the holidays and all that's going on, that might not be the best attended event.
Well, one of the early meetings prior to, because remember we had a series of meetings before we ever actually talked about rate increases, or decided rate increases. And I remember one of the meetings, the room was full.
Yeah.
We had a real, I don't remember.
I don't remember December or what it was. Yeah.
Last year, 5 years ago, it was on December 20th, this initial kickoff meeting. So,
all right, well, you said it's already printed and going in the mail, so I'll table what I was going to suggest. All right.
Well, I know you board members have to hear the same thing over and over and over again every time we have a public meeting, kind of do some of the same stuff for our new faces in the audience. So I guess it's kind of boring from your perspective. So I can understand you guys now, let's wait. But we think that the more, and even if just the letter gets in everybody's hands and they start thinking about it, we think the more outreach you have, the more talking about the situation, the more informed your public is, your customers are, and that's better.
Well, no, I definitely agree with that. I was just concerned that the mid-December would kind of conflict with a lot of the holiday and everything going on, Christmas parties and vacations and everything else.
Yeah. You said the 19th.
It's the 20th.
Same date as the
You said the 19th.
Have you said the 19th? It's 2018 December, isn't it? The 20th, it's on a Thursday? Oh, so we made it after the meeting.
We made it after the board meeting.
Okay,
Right.
sorry. So it is the 20th.
And we kicked around the time on when that was going to be. We made it 6 so that the board could have a chance to go home and take a break and then come back, because we felt if we made it immediately after board meeting number 1, we would know what time that was, and number 2, it might be too early for the general public to be able to attend.
All right.
Legislative update, we talked a lot about the AQUA conference, and I just had 2 other things. So I've been approached by a group within AQUA on the headwaters issues, which really encompasses forest management, firefighting infrastructure, land use planning, quite a few other issues that we've made great strides at the federal level getting this fire borrowing issue resolved, but we have not made a lot of have not had a lot of success in California as with our state government, and so there is a push to develop a committee within AQUA to focus on those state issues, either a committee or a task force. And I was approached to be either the chair or the vice chair of that effort. My expectation is there's value for us to get our community's issues on the forefront of that effort within AQUA to address issues in Sacramento. And it raises our district's profile. We get the opportunity to make sure that firefighting infrastructure is part of those discussions. We're really at the table with our issues, and we can get something done. The issue with that, of course, is that it's going to take some time, right? So it's going to take some more of my time and resources to engage appropriately and to try and lead that effort from a statewide water community perspective. And so before responding to them at all, I wanted to bring that to the board and get your opinions. This may take me out of the district and out of my other roles within the district to some extent. how much of that. I know I can do a lot of phone conferences and a lot of things of that nature, particularly in setting up the committee and then establishing the kind of topics and approaches that we'd be focusing on. But there will be some face-to-face that's required. There will also be, once those are determined, there'll be some lobbying and FaceTime with folks in Sacramento, both at the legislative level as well as the agency and administration levels. And so it's going to take some effort. So I wanted to put that out to you all and find out what your interests were in the district supporting that on a statewide level. Talked with Richard about it, talked with John about it, and wanted to see what your thoughts were. Richard, John, if you guys have opinions about it, letting you guys put those out there as well.
One thing I would do is I would call it a task force. You call it a committee, it never ends.
And I agree with that. Yeah, that was honestly the first thing that went through my head.
Well, I think there's some fictional positive things coming out of the projections from our community. I think, the forest management, we see what continues to happen around the state of California, given the lack of management of our forests, the absolute disasters that have been occurring. I think we can accelerate those efforts and get them focused. When I'm in the California watershed, get some of the focus on the Tahoe Basin. I have to believe it would be excellent for long term.
How is this going to work with the committee that we had before that I've been on, and it sounds like Paper Owns is going to take over that section?
Yeah, and that's really focused on, I think, is more focused on the federal level, and that was never a really recognized committee within AQUA. It was an effort to work with CAFWA at the federal level. And I think that what they're recognizing is that approach was effective in lobbying for the federal issues and resolving the fire borrowing, less effective with the some of the other forest management issues there, but that there has not been any effective real push in California to actually get something done. There's been a lot of talk about it, there's been a lot of study and a lot of research, a lot of ideas on the table, but nothing functional is actually being achieved. And so in order to do that, they're looking at, let's put together an actual, again, a task force or a committee within AQUA rallying the water community to help to lead this forest management and headwaters issue.
Our task is kind of to implement that resilient forest.
Yeah.
Is you going to continue on that, or are you getting more to the funding and working with the state of California?
Yeah, well, I think it is the resilient forest approach, and it's looking at, instead of that kind of broad concept, which I think is really what's in those documents and in that study, it's to take those things and implement them in legislation and regulation in California to actually either provide money or to provide, again, regulation or regulatory relief for things like mills in the mountains, so that you can actually have somewhere to send timber that you take down, or biofuels plants, so that you have some place to sell that to, things of that nature, as well as land use planning. What's that?
Which in both cases they've been shut down.
Yeah, exactly. And within the past 4 years, they've shut all that stuff down in multiple cases. And so that's a component of it, but it is to focus on what are all of our options that we can actually do to implement an increase in forest management and forest health, and what do we need to do those things, focusing on those pieces and then work and chip away at those topics. We haven't been, our previous effort, again, was effective at the federal level, but hasn't been effective on the statewide level. And this committee, there'll be a chair and a vice chair. One will be from Southern California, one from Northern California, and they've asked me if I'm interested in the Northern California position.
Well, I told you I spent some time with Dave Reynolds.
Yeah.
And we figured we'd talk more in February.
Yeah.
So Shannon, if I'm hearing you right, this is a good thing for the district.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing that you're a little concerned with the time spent on this, is that correct?
That to me is the cost, right? There is a
Right.
cost to this district of resources, that being me and potentially Shelley's time of herding a bunch of cats statewide and getting people to say, yeah, this is what we want to do, and formulating the specific asks for these topics. That's not I think honestly, I believe this is probably a 5-year effort to actually develop specific plans, get buy-in from multiple places around the state, and then to try and implement those things. I think we'll be in that implementation phase in 5 years.
It is a concern of mine that you'd be spending a lot of your time if we meet you on important stuff here, but I'm going to trust you guys to know that if you can handle that or not. So if you think it's something you can take on, then we're behind you. I appreciate it.
I think it's important.
Yeah. No, I'm not disputing that. I'm just worried that, he spread himself so thin. I appreciate it.
You don't have any idea of time requirement yet?
Honestly, no idea. It's just so, I think it will come and go, right? This is not a consistent load, but really what this stuff takes is somebody's got to drive this bus, and right now nobody's driving that bus, and that's one of the things that they're asking me and just whoever the chair or other vice chair to do. They're looking for people who are going to go out and implement this stuff. That's what they're interested in me.
How's this going to work with the capital?
I fully expect that we're going to be integrated with that. This is probably going to replace that previous committee, and then Dave Egerton will still be the chair, I expect, or not chair, but a member of CAFLA, but I expect we'll be integrated with them. Again, it's early, we're still in the formulation stage.
Because he was actually the chairman of the course, this group that we did have.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Nick vote on whether it goes up or down or not over time. But what I would do is set a time limit, set a drop dead date for results, and make it a task force. Otherwise, they'll just beat you to infinity.
Right.
And that would be your worry, is to do all that work, have the state look at it and not accept the report or let it drown.
Yeah.
And it's certainly important body of work if we can get it done.
I agree. And the expectation, well, the way AQUA has run in the past is these chairmanship of the chair or vice chair is really a 2-year deal. So we'll see how long this takes to get moving, and then how we go forward and what that cycle is. There'll be more bites at the apple, whether or not this is overwhelming and unproductive for me and for the district. There's opportunities in the future to back out of it.
Are you still going to be on the board?
Yes.
I don't know how many you know, he's been on the governing board there and spent a lot of time. It's been good having Shannon there because he's stood up for us for special needs.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. I'm sorry. The one other thing I had was, now that I've got your feeling about that, is Eric Saperstein, our lobbyist in Washington, D.C. He will be out here for the CASA conference, and we've been talking about with an opportunity for him to come out. One of those ideas was to do something we've done in the past, which was basically a dinner, which is more of an informal opportunity, but that would need to be on probably Sunday, January 20th, if there's any interest in board members doing that. Another alternative is he could come in earlier, and that would be for the January 17th board meeting, and give a formal presentation to the board about kind of what's going on in DC. I don't really have a preference either way. I think bringing him out early creates some additional costs for us if he comes out for that evening for a dinner to sit down informally. It gives us a little bit more time to spend on a one-on-one basis with the new general manager, and for Nick to get to know him a little bit, and for hopefully anyone else who's willing to come to that dinner. For me, that's kind of my preference, but I certainly defer to you on which, or the other alternative is that we not have him come out and do any presentation or any dinner. So there's options there, and wanted to lay those out for you. and get your thoughts.
You know, I've sat through both the dinners and the presentations. I don't know how valuable I consider those, honestly. I don't know if I learned very much on those. You know, you've been to some county.
I don't know, I think it's valuable. I think there's value there. I mean, I don't know that I come away with a real fount of knowledge, but I think it's valuable to interact.
I didn't know the chance said that if he comes out early, it's extra cost.
Yeah, was that, yeah. I mean,
So
I think,
I'm not real interested in that.
I think the dinner is the better way to go.
Okay.
Is not having come early, because I agree with that. I don't want.
Are you guys okay with a Sunday dinner? Would that be
Sure.
so?
Easier to get reservation.
It's
True. Okay, I'll plan on kind of moving that direction and putting that together.
Somebody mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got.
Okay, Shelley, did you already give everything you wanted to give? I know she's still on here.
Still here. And it's wondering, is the Casa Pena President holiday weekend or not? Is that right before holiday?
I have no idea. What else is going
Give
on?
us extra reservations.
Okay.
Yes, it is. It's Martin Luther King. Sorry. I'm into the logistics.
The details. All right, before I jump into water conservation, I forgot the two most exciting parts of the Aqua Conference. Jim won big. He won the big prize. He gets a free conference registration and hotel for the next Aqua Conference. And I learned that Gary's law firm throws the best parties. Two very important takeaways. Good afternoon. I'm Shelley Thompson, the Water Conservation Specialist, and I wanted to provide an update on all the great work that went on in the Water Conservation Department this year. So with 85% of our customers now metered, the district's first point of contact with customers often comes from a call regarding a high bill. Sometimes the customers call on their own fruition, and sometimes they call from a water smart notification for a leak notice or high use notice. And when customers call, it's great that we're able to offer them a variety of free services and rebate to help them lower their water use and their bill. One of our most popular services is our water-wise house calls. We contract with Sierra Energy and Water Conservation, who also works with Liberty Utilities. It's a really great partnership for our customers because they receive both a water and energy retrofit at the same time at no cost. In 2018, we have completed 130 water-wise house calls thus far. This includes checking for leaks, installing water-efficient shower heads, faucet aerators, and informing customers on additional rebate opportunities. The total cost of that contract is $20 grand. Our water-wise landscape consultations are another service we provide. They consist of inspecting the customer's landscape and irrigation system and providing tips on how to schedule your irrigation controller, adjust sprinkler or drip heads, and provide ideas on retrofits or plant selection to make their system more efficient. This program really ramped up this year. We performed 50 water-wise landscape consultations compared with 8 from last year. Water production during summer months almost triples, and it's mainly due to landscape irrigation. As such, our turf buyback program is very popular. 2018 marks the second year that this program was fully funded by the district. We completed 30 turf conversions at over 20,000 square feet with a price tag of $35,000. That's an estimated annual water savings of 433,000 gallons a year. This is 10 more projects than we completed last year. Another exciting thing for our turf buyback program is we received TRPA's Best in Basin Award for our 10-year anniversary. We offer 2 appliance rebates that are also so popular that we barely need to advertise them. Toilets are the largest indoor water users, and in 2018, we rebated 74 toilet conversions. That number doubled since last year. We rebate 50% of the cost of a toilet up to $100. Our clothes washer rebate remains relatively steady each year. This year, we rebated 33 water-efficient clothes washers at a cost of $200 per clothes washer. One of my goals when I started back at the district was to ensure that every student that graduates from Lake Tahoe Unified School District has toured our wastewater treatment plant. With support from the lab and operators, we achieved this goal with every fifth grader touring the plant in November. Director Jim Jones suggested that I reach out to the Sugar Pine Foundation to see if there was any partnership opportunities. As such, I worked with the school district and Sugar Pine Foundation to coordinate a field trip for every sixth grader to plant sugar pines at the plant in October. They also got to do hands-on activities to learn about water quality, both pictured here. We received a lot of great feedback from the teachers and hope to continue both programs in the future. We also updated our outreach material at public events to be more engaging. This picture shows kids fishing at Firefest and then answering the question about water and receiving a sticker for their passport if answered correctly. We successfully reached out to, hold on a second, let me jump out of here. Okay. We successfully reached out to our customers through extensive community outreach using local TV stations, radio, newspapers. All of the press can be found on our website. And I wanted to show you one of the 4 commercials we produced this year to give you an idea of what our public sees and hears. It's a little embarrassing to watch yourself on screen, so if I turn red, excuse me. Cold outside. Have you prepared and protected your home from cold temperatures of winter? By taking a few precautions now, you can greatly reduce the damage and expense of broken pipes. Outside your home, disconnect and drain all outdoor hoses and turn off and drain the irrigation system. Insulate exposed pipes or faucets. Seal holes and cracks in exterior walls, foundation, and around pipes. Do you have a home shut-off valve? If so, shovel it regularly. Was easily accessible in case of an emergency. Heading out of town, if you're leaving for more than a day, turn off your home water shut-off valve. Open and drain indoor and outdoor faucets. Turn your thermostat to 65 degrees and open all bedrooms, bathrooms, and closet doors. Remember to open cabinet doors under your kitchen and bathroom sinks to keep warm air circulating around water pipes. If pipes do freeze, immediately turn off water at your own shut-off valve. Open a faucet near the frozen point. Wrap the frozen pipe with towels and repeatedly pour hot water over the towel. Without towels, public utility district is here to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In an emergency, call our customer service department and help will be on the way. Have a safe and happy winter season. Thanks to your friends at South Tahoe Public Utility District. We deliver when it counts. All right, well, the sound was a little off, but you got the gist.
You're not going to win any lip syncing.
I'm a darn good listener. With that, thank you so much for your support of the Water Conservation Program. I really believe it benefits our community, and it's such a great resource for our staff to be able to offer our community when they call upon us.
So what do you think with our new smart metering? Are you going to get even busier? I would think you would be.
You know, Jessica Henderson is here, and she's been, we just launched on our WaterSmart portal. We just launched to where WaterSmart is now automatically alerting customers for high usage and leaks. And I'll tell you what, Jessica has been very busy the last few weeks answering phone calls due to frozen and burst water pipes, folks that didn't close their home shutoff valves or their irrigation valves all the way. The pro is for those out-of-town customers, frozen and burst pipe, they're being alerted right now versus in a month or 2 from now or when they come up for Christmas. You think I answered that, Jess? Okay.
This morning I contacted about 6 customers who we found out they've been using about 1,100 gallons an hour. Over the last 8 hours, we got water turned off. One of those houses, the entire lower story was flooded already. So.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you.
Good job. Okay, thanks, Julie. All right, I think we've gone through our list. Does anybody else have anything?
Just on the future meetings, just wanted to point out, I think we talked about it before, we have a water rights meeting tomorrow with here at 12 o'clock with Tahoe City and North Tahoe to get together and combine efforts on making a response, which we've been given the extension till I think May 1st to tell the state what we want to do with all of our applications and permits and all that that's been sitting down there for decades. And then we get together agencies. We said, we got to figure if we get a unified voice, it will take out, rather than sort of disharmony. In the letter when we got the extension, they said, we didn't tell them what to do with all these things by May 1st. There's going to be, they're all going to decide and talk about striking fear and horror and the heart of water players. We told the State Water Resources Control Board to be making decisions on your future supply of water. So that's our aim with the other agencies on the North Shore to get together and they bring their staff and at least one of their attorneys. So we should have a lively discussion tomorrow.
You're going to be here for that, right, Gary?
Yes.
Yes.
AD-HOC, I was able to speak to North Tahoe PUD's attorney. I've known her a long time. She'll be good to work with, and just looking forward to working with the other agencies, the other two, all three PUDs, and coming up with some strategy to deal with basically help the state board help themselves, because this is really uncharted territory for the state board. There's no other situation like this in California, dealing with an allocation of 22,000 acre-feet in the Tahoe Basin, on how it's going to be allocated between groundwater and surface water. So there's some pretty unique, interesting issues that are going to be facing the state board and how they proceed with processing the current applications and petitions that have been frozen for us like 40 years or so. So I think they were excited to get together with us.
Well, we do have a couple of items to take care of in closed session, so at this time, why don't we come out of open session, we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll go into closed session. We are in open session now. We have an item for action, which is approve the general manager agreement for professional services between the Tahoe PUD and John Teal for the position of general manager commencing January 10th.
With an addendum?
With an addendum that Nancy's going to take right now.
Item 5, there be a new item 5F added, compensatory time, to pay out all accrued compensatory time up to 280 hours at John's old rate as engineering department manager.
So this is what we talked about. I'm sure this is fine by you.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So the 240 is the cap, but then usually you can roll over 40.
All right. In case I wasn't clear, I made that in motion for.
Okay. I'll second that.
That's it. Rain, last vote. Make it count. All right. Okay. Congratulations, John. The rest of 5-0.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
A great run.
I don't know if I missed it or not, but when you came out of closed session, you'd say there's nothing to report, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, you had that right on.